Hey, you. Yeah, you. What you doing? I know what I'm doing. I'm starting right with Talking About the Blues podcast, baby.
Okay, welcome to Talking About the Blues. Usually I'm extremely animated in the beginning of the show, but I will not be animated today because we're about to have a really deep discussion with the legendary a legendary artist and musician and very patient brother, Mr. Corey Harris. How you doing, brother?
I'm well. How you doing this evening?
I'm getting it together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I I would like to start with a blog post that you wrote
Mm-hmm.
because I read that, and when I read it, I said I have to get you on the show. I also reposted it and got into several heated discussions and debates with a lot of artists. Even one artist that's not American but of non-melanin skin complexion
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
decided that he was going to stop singing the blues.
Mm.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Now, please, actually, I don't want to jack it up. I believe the title was "Can White People Play the Blues?" Correct?
That's right.
Right. Exactly. So now, let's. Matter of fact, can you do the audience a favor and just give a brief summary of what this was about, and then we'll get into the inspiration of it.
Well, basically, my position in the article is that we all come from somewhere. We all have a culture that comes from a place. We all have a history. As much as we may like to pretend for social reasons that we're in some melting pot, it's actually not true.
Mm.
And everyone has a history that cannot be refuted, and so that history comes into play when we whatever we do, and that's not a bad thing, but that's the reality of it. So for example, if myself as a black man, if I moved to China and I lived in China for like 20 years and I spoke Chinese and I joined the National Ballet and I learned all the arts and could play all the music and I was great.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I couldn't lay claim to that culture, nor could I be upset if an elder Chinese man said, "Oh, he plays like a black man," or he ain't really coming with it. Like,
Right.
you know, I can't be upset,
No.
because I'm a visitor, and so I'm there really having fun, and so I should just enjoy myself and not act like my feelings are hurt or that I have to control this game.
I
I should
understand.
just and I should also play this Chinese music as a black man. I should play this music from a place that I know, and I tell students, because I have students that are white as well as black as well, and I tell them you have to play from where you are. You have to know who you are first. So that's basically my position. I'm saying now, if we're talking about the blues, I'm saying that if you are not from that lineage, and not just saying if you're not, um, let's just say if you're not from the Black American experience and that lineage, that heritage, then it's a different thing when you play the blues.
Absolutely.
It just
Absolutely.
is. It sounds different. And even if you're a black person from a different culture, it's going to be different. It'll still be, an African music, but it'll be different.
It'll be a
But
different
even
feel.
more so if you're coming from a European mind frame, from a Western perspective, it's going to be different.
Well, now you've touched on a lot of things that I want to get into, and before actually, let me just address the earlier part of the statement
Mm.
because it does. I write music as well as scripts and things of this nature, and read. And I've taken courses and workshops and things of this nature. To your point, every professor, proctor, teacher, whatever the case may be, all say the same thing, or even if it's just a mentor, you got to reach and speak from a place of truth. And I don't understand as a African American. I don't understand why, when it's something that comes from our lineage, that seems to be a problem. Now,
I think I know why.
oh,
But we can
please.
talk about that.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, we can talk about that now or later.
No,
But
go right ahead. Go right ahead. I don't want to stop you.
well, I think I know why, because we were brought here as a free labor source,
Mm.
and it is still lingering. That is still the case. We are an obsolete labor source now. That's
Yes.
why we're being shot down in the streets.
Mm.
Because we're not really, we've been replaced in many ways by immigrants, by automation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, being that we have that history of being stolen away and being made into slaves, being people who had culture, civilization, history, identity, language, science, technology, all those things, and we were put into captivity and made to be slaves. Also, the fruits of our labor was claimed by the oppressor.
Mm.
And that is the case. Look at all the black inventions that never got patented.
By a
Look at
black person.
all the black first. Matthew Henson was at the North Pole before Peary was. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
time and time again, black achievement has been claimed, and it's even taken for granted. If there's a white man and he's got, say, Edmund Hillary, when he was with Tenzing Norgay
Right.
going up Mount Everest, Tenzing Norgay got there first, but he wasn't white, so it didn't count, right?
It's not funny. It's irony.
you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, it's obvious that this is how the perception is in a white supremacy mind frame. And so the mind frame is that black people in America are expected to go with the definition that we've been handed. And when we don't go with that definition, when we actually see ourselves as African and envision ourselves being part of a larger black world, then that's upsetting to the system. So again, the reason why I believe is because it's still viewed that we don't have a culture, and that we should be, whatever culture we do have, that we should welcome everyone in. And there's no other culture that I can really cite that is expected, under threat of being seen as quote unquote racist, expected to invite people who are outside of that culture in. I don't see people from the synagogues going into the projects and saying, please come to our Saturday service.
No.
It don't happen. They're not looking for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see people from the Chinese Buddhist temples going to the Mexican neighborhood saying, hey, come to our, our service. Come and be up in our thing. We're going to teach you, it's only us who's expected to be hyper hospitable and just come in and take whatever you want. Come on in, the door is open. It's only us who's expected to be like that.
True. So with that being said, let me propose. Let me ask you this question. And I'm basing it off what I call the textbook, or even the Bible of Blues lineage, Blues People by Amiri Baraka.
Mm-hmm.
And he made it extremely clear that blues was something that the Euro Western mind, one, couldn't wrap around, and two, could not, for whatever reason, infiltrate. Jazz was in ragtime and jump blues, for that matter, was a little easier because they were able to utilize the techniques and the technical aspect of what they thought music was.
Right.
Where, besides the British invasion, which is what actually launched this, and also excluding the exceptions like the Buddy Hollies of the world and the Jerry Lee Lewises of the world, what what was the moment, or what do you think gave them that green light to be able to say, okay, now we can lay claim on this, just as the
Oh,
music?
I think it has to do with economic control and um, power over the other, as they say.
Mm,
Once there's economic control, which the whole industry of blues began in the 20th century, we know economically it was white people who were running everything.
right.
And we were the producers. We were the farmers, and they were the landowners.
Mm,
And then going back, I think that really, you're right. They could never, like Amir Baraka was saying, they couldn't understand it. That's why they called it the blues, because they didn't have a name for it, and it seemed melancholy and strange to them.
mm,
And so, us even calling it that, it's really a name that has been used to market a type of black music, but it's way bigger than that,
right. It could actually be considered.
way bigger than that. But back to I hope I answered your
Well,
question.
yes, yes, absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely.
All right.
Because I thought about all these things, and that's not the only article that you wrote that I read, but I thought about all these things, and I think this particular article resonated because of I get feed, feedback and backlash a lot, and
Hmm.
actually, let's take it here with the claiming of the music from the Euro Western community.
Hmm.
Why do you? And I kind of have my own thoughts, but I'm going to ask you this anyway. I would like to know what you think about this. Why do you think they appreciate it, they love it, they would like to celebrate it,
Hmm.
however, and claim it as American music,
Hmm.
but don't want to discuss, get angry, or say that we're being divisive when the things that went along with that music comes up?
Right. 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 Well, that's just because we're spoiling the party. They have a definition that they want to impose based on their values and their culture and what they want to see happen in the world. And we spoil the party because it actually happened to us.
Right.
The blues happened to us. We went through 400 years of that. So, just like I'm not going to go to Eastern Europe. I love klezmer, but I'm not going to go and be like, you know, this is mine because I love it now, and
Right.
I'm in charge now. No, no, no. It's there's the essence of things, and it does matter. History and culture matters.
It does. And with that being said, why do you feel actually? Let's call a spade a spade.
Mm,
I have to flip the switch for a moment because yes, it was white supremacy that did a lot, and the white supremacy actually stems from the Europe area, Rome, Britain, blah blah blah. However, I would like to shift this to the new Negroes of the turn of the century and the Reconstruction period, because
Uh,
they also, the assimilators also played part in the destruction of this culture and music being part or accepted as black history. What's your thoughts on that?
when you say new Negroes, you're talking about today's new Negro.
Well, honestly, the reality of the situation is I don't think that assimilated mind frame actually changed within the several hundred
No,
years.
no, it hasn't. It's the same mind frame. You're right. But let me get your question right. What are you asking me?
So, okay, besides the fact that it was appropriated, and you explained why it wasn't just appropriated, but why it should be accepted, and I never thought of it that way, and that makes a lot of sense. There, there are black people that want to assimilate and put that behind, or not even put
Right.
erase it. How much of an impact does that also have on the fact that the blues as an African American, a black experience in this country, has not really been looked at or appreciated as such?
Um, well, I think it has a large part in that we our regard towards ourselves and our lack of appreciation towards ourselves does directly play a large part in how the music is perceived and how it's ultimately how it's controlled by others.
Right, because
You
what
know,
weren't it some
um,
black people saying that that's like low down, dirty people music?
you're kind of low. Say that again.
I'm sorry. What wasn't there some of our own people that wanted to assimilate, or some might call house Negroes, calling it low low down?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the mind game they played on us because obviously anything that wasn't aping the white man, i.e., Christianity,
Mm,
was considered to be low down and dirty.
mm.
If it wasn't all white and pure as the driven snow, then it had to be low down and dirty, right?
Right.
It wasn't talking about sweet Jesus.
Mm.
So, that just comes, when I think of that, that's just an enslaved mindset, to even say that. Because the blues is really between the blues and the work song, that is our indigenous African music as African Americans in North America. That's what we have.
Right. And that's what we brought over
That's
here.
the root of everything, is really the work song, you know?
Absolutely.
So, for us to then turn around and say it's low down and dirty speaks volumes as to how we regard ourselves. Because again, I don't know, but I don't imagine that say someone who is Yiddish from Eastern Europe will hear like an old klezmer song and say that's some low down and dirty klezmer. I don't know, but seems to me that we still are suffering from a lack of appreciation. In fact, I know we are because I travel to other countries and I see um, the the high esteem that the blues enjoys, not only present but also the history of it and the history of the people as well. That's another thing I noticed, even
Mm.
in Europe. Europeans, perhaps because they are somewhat removed from the horrors of, the American South of those periods, they don't really flinch as much about talking about the history that goes along with the music because you got to talk about the history. That's a disservice. That's false to
Yeah.
not respect the history and not, It's almost like you want to have everything but the burden. You just want to come and have a party, but you don't want to clean up. you know?
I dig it.
So
I
you
dig it.
can't have it both ways. You gotta,
Yeah, you got to. If you're gonna cut the piece of cake, you got to eat it.
come on, for real.
No, I dig it. I dig it. So hey, I would like to ask you what responses and what energies did you receive after writing these series of articles? Were your audience shocked? How did what happened?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was the gamut of reactions I got. Some people were like, "Way to go!" That's what I was gonna say. That's what I was thinking. Some white people said that, as well as some black people. There was one black person who was a staunch defender of white blues players and was insulted by my article. I thought
Wow,
that was funny.
that is
Um, but in general, there are a lot of angry white responses, either like defensive or almost like passive aggressive
mm,
to outright hostile and threatening,
really
insulting. Yes, I got called names, all kind of stuff.
wow.
People were hostile as if like I was gonna break in their house and take something of theirs. That's like what it was like, as if I was actually really as if my article was like some like hateful rant,
Right.
you
See,
know. And I really took time when writing this article.
well, it was very
I
thoughtful.
was careful with my words because I wanted to make sure that I was understood. And it's not about hating white people or hating anybody. It's not about saying that people can't play whatever they want to play. It's not about policing people's playing, you know. But what I found is interesting to me, which no one really said it, but what really I felt angered a lot of people the most is that I um, didn't approve of their worldview in terms of the blues, that I
Mm.
wasn't signing up for their party. If I only just said, "Oh, okay, it's all the same. Yes, it doesn't matter what you are. You can play the blues just like B.B. King, and it's all the same thing,"
But
then I wouldn't have had no problem.
no, but you wouldn't have been telling the truth either.
Of course, that would have been a lie, but I'm just saying that's how crazy that is. It's like that's that's really the crux of it, is that, you know, I am going against, I guess the prevailing mindset of it. And I've even lost some work. I know, because I've heard some promoters tell my booking agent, "Well, we don't want him because he's divisive, or he's a racist. He's
Unbelievable.
gonna he gonna get on the mic and say something, whatever." I don't know what they thinking,
I see,
but
but that's really the issue that I have with this entire discussion, because we're encouraged to have these discussions so we can heal and people can get a better understanding of each other. We have these discussions as black people. When black people say it, it's wrong. But anybody else, for whatever reason, has the right to say. It's almost like the reparations argument,
mhm.
But I personally believe that if we were to get reparations as a whole, that would total we there's so much we would have to be paid for that will totally shift the power structure.
Yeah, really, that's right.
So now, with that being said, I have to ask this just to try to be unbiased.
Yes.
Do you regret making these statements based on the response in terms of business?
Not at all. No, not at all. I mean, I'm in this because I have a duty. I'm called to play this music, and I do this for the ancestors. I don't do it for, you know, for the money. And I'm sure that I will survive no matter what. So I'm free. I don't have to worry about, and those who get it are gonna get it, and those who won't. But there's a time that those of us who realize that there is a thing such as black culture and blues culture, that we have to say something.
Right.
We have a responsibility because people talk about people fought and died for you to be here, and it's true. People actually gave their lives. People actually worked their whole lives and had these experiences that made the blues, and they were black people.
Yeah.
And so we have to honor that because that's where we came from, and that culture is what really helped us to survive all of the shit that went down in the 20th century.
Absolutely.
That's what really brought us through is our culture, and now we're being told that it's everybody's, and it's divisive if we, it's insane to me because all that to me is just code words because the bottom line is we have something that other people want.
Right.
And we don't realize that how great it is. And a lot of us are so wounded that we're just glad someone likes it.
I do.
And that's kind of sad, where it's almost like we're an abuse victim or something. We're just, so beaten down. I'm just saying as a people, not individually, but it's like we're just glad if somebody who is not black is like, wow, that's great.
Wow. So it sounds like, and I would have to agree that it's at the point where white people have something to like that we've done, and they've said that it comes from you guys. We should just be happy with that.
Right. That's what would not rock the boat, But we live in a country where we're in denial, so we can't really talk about things in boxes anymore. We can't talk about the blues and then just ignore this huge elephant in the room called RACE.
Right.
Or history, or slavery, or Jim Crow, or white supremacy. We can't, we gotta be real and talk about all of that,
Right.
And it's not because we want to be party poopers, but it's so we can be honest,
I do.
And not be out here bullshitting ourselves and just, making a show over someone else's life and livelihood,
A minstrel show.
And what the problem is that people really trivialize it so much to the point that it's okay for you to cover a John Lee Hooker song and play it note for note. And you might even get a Grammy if you're not black,
Yeah.
for covering someone's song.
Yeah. Yeah, or at least be called the greatest rock and roll group in history.
Yeah, so I just feel, in general, I feel like it's very important for us to say something. I don't feel bad about saying anything, and I would expect anyone from any culture to defend their culture and to define it for what they see it as, and not have other people put the definition,
to who they are, right?
That's what we do.
So, okay, before we get to wrapping up, let me just get a couple of more questions in because now we need to discuss audience, right? I was able to speak with Leo Bud Welch and his nephew, who is his manager, Vince Varnadu. And I asked them a question about how they felt, especially because Leo 83 years old, so he was close to I wouldn't say inception, but the early days. How does it feel, looking into the audience and not seeing people that look like you, where this comes from? And in the answer, Vinci says, you know, it Leo would love before he leaves this planet to look into the audience and see people who look like him. But it's one thing to claim it, but you got to put your money where the mouth is. Now I'm paraphrasing, but the point I'm getting to is you and I know what this is, who this is, and everything, and they're a group of people like you and I that fight to not just reclaim it but reconnect it to our people. What's your thoughts about our people putting their money where their mouth is? Because we've heard, you know, the anger at Macklemore and all these other people, but it's their audience that pays not just them, pays us to see the blues.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
About
Our people, black folk, putting their money where their mouth is. Yes, we all are in the
well, yeah, I think that we can't really expect as a blues artist, I can't really expect Black America to come around to me and be like, "Oh, we love the blues," you know. Um,
Wait, why? If you don't mind answering that.
why? Because Black culture is not nostalgic and white culture is. They like to, play dress up with our history in a sense and nostalgize what we actually live.
Mm,
When we play country music, I doubt that we're doing that. Or when black people play any other type of music, we're not like going down like some memory lane that we never lived through. So that's one thing. Is we don't we always want something fresh, and we like change in our music, and we're into the idea of progression.
mm,
So that being said, we and that's really where the blues came from. When you think about it, the blues at the time of Robert Johnson and Booker White and Charlie Patton and Willie Brown and Tommy Johnson and Tommy McClellan and all them, Blind Blake,
mm.
they were all young men. This was like what was happening. This was not their grandparents or even their parents' music.
Right.
This was the hot thing. So
Right.
we have to keep it like that. Though we have to express ourselves from who we are. And, we're black and we came through this American experience. So it's going to sound like something like the blues in some kind of way.
But it has to
But
evolve.
also we have to realize that, the blues is, like I was saying before, it's a box, and it's a way to not talk about black music, like Nicholas Payton talks about black American music.
Right.
When we talk about jazz and blues and funk and hip hop and soul and this and that, it lets it so we're not talking about a people, nor are we talking about a culture. We're talking about genres in a record store or online.
Mm.
And so we have to come back to that because, when we talk about, like, say, Cuban music, you can't talk about Cuban music without talking about Cuban history, or the culture, or
Exactly.
any other people.
No, you can't. You can't. What is the I'm sorry, I got excited. What is the Irish music with the dance and the kilts and stuff?
Like the Gaelic music,
Right, right.
Celtic music.
Right. When that comes up, everything that goes with it comes up. I'll even use for an example,
Yeah.
Everlast when he did Jump Around. That that
Yes,
that was the embodiment of Irish culture.
it was. It was. with the shamrocks and everything.
Exactly, and there was not nobody fussed or fought. You know,
And I thought that was cool. He was bringing who he knew himself to be into the music he loved.
exactly. You know, he's one of my favorites, and I agree with. But see, that goes back to your statement earlier. Everyone has a right to celebrate their heritage and culture through their voice,
Yes.
which we should have that right too with the blues.
And everyone also has the right to say, hey, that's not our tradition. That's not the same thing.
Mm,
And no one can get upset. You know, I can go and play everybody's music, and that's my right to go and play in these different styles because I love music. But at the end of the day, I can't be hurt if I'm in a mariachi, cover band, and they say that don't sound like the real mariachi music.
right, right, right. Because it's the truth. Because you didn't have the mariachi experience, the DNA.
Right, right. So, yeah, I look at it like, hey, I'm a visitor in this. Let me just enjoy myself. I don't own this house. I ain't built this house. I'm a visitor. So let me just have a good time and mind my manners and be respectful.
Right, right. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. And I have to just go back to an earlier statement of yours. What I call prisoners of war was brought here and turned into slaves, the captives. Why we were here because that's the ultimate form of capitalism.
Hmm.
Why the record industry, Hollywood, and all these other industries, why it makes a lot of sense. That's how the structure is.
Yeah, we were the only people that were brought here as capital. Even though there was, a high percentage of white people who were also brought here as indentured servants.
Which
That
is a
wasn't
difference. Which is a difference. Indentured servants and cattle, I believe that there's a difference, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
big difference. Big difference. Yeah, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel as an indentured servant, and you're still white.
Right,
You know.
right,
So, but anyway, yeah, that's true. We were capital, and it's still seen as that. I mean, think about it. Like when I've noticed, like whenever someone is shot down in the street, usually the conversation goes to something like, well, he shouldn't have been. He should have been got a good job or something. He should have got employment.
right,
It always seems to be they bring up something about working, or they weren't working, or
right. Yeah.
it's economic. It's but I think in terms of code words. I don't just look at what's said on the surface. I go with really how the code words make me feel.
Mm,
And when Michael Brown was shot down, when Eric Garner was shot, was
Yoked up.
strangled to death, over some cigarettes, and that was actually presented as an okay excuse.
right. He shouldn't have been selling illegal Lucy's on the street.
Selling Lucy's. I was like, wow. So that lets you know that really our lives don't have any value, and they're constantly looking for a reason to snuff us out. If a reason can be had, they will take it.
Mm. Now, with that being said, I want to switch up a bit because you brought up Christianity, you brought up the European Jesus. Now, I've gotten to a lot of discussions and debate about this, and I've seen a lot of statements and posts. So I just want to get your thought. Do you believe that the Bible was written and given to us by them, or that they transcribed it or utilized it to their advantage? Because I'd have to believe the latter, only because it comes from, the stories come from a land of black people.
Yes.
And I believe Yahshua of Judah was a black man.
Mm. Well, I believe that the Bible, as we know it, first of all, we have a corrupted and heavily redacted, translated, omitted, edited, all of those things.
Right.
Um, so what we have as is actually a tool for enslavement
Mm.
is what we have.
Mm. Mm. Okay.
So what we have is, as I was saying, is something that has been made a tool for our enslavement. But originally, it was the 42 Laws of Ma'at. It was the book of coming forth by day. It was the Kemetic tradition of the Nile Valley, which we know gave birth to all of the three Abrahamic religions, right? Judaism, Islam, and Christianity.
Right.
So, and also we know that the oldest Christian nation is Ethiopia.
Right.
King Azana was minting coins as a Christian king before there was any Christianity organized in Europe, or what is now called Europe.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and we also know that the Nicene Council that was convened by Constantine and a bunch of other early Christian leaders really established a lot of the assumptions that are in Christianity, meaning that Christianity was actually being made over a period of centuries. And if we were to transport today's Christian, Baptist, Catholic, whoever, back to the 3rd century, they wouldn't recognize it at all.
Right.
You know, I mean, Jesus wasn't even, whoever they say was Jesus, was not a Christian.
No.
You know, he was not white. He did not speak English. His name was not Jesus. That this individual person, even though this is the most popular book and supposed to be the most famous person that ever existed, there's actually no proof that he existed, because there was a lot of people named Yeshua at that time. And there are a lot of people who had ascended to being a Christ, because Christ is the crown, and that is an anointing, that is an office, that is something that is bestowed upon you after you have ascended, after your spirit has resurrected. So it's not about, really, in my view, it's not about dying and living in some afterlife and going to live with some dead God, because that is actually, if you check it, that is only compatible to give to a slave to think that I can beat the hell out of you, do whatever I want, but don't worry, you're going to go to heaven because you're good.
Okay, well, let's talk about the hymns briefly, since we're on this topic.
Why do I feel that part of what?
Black music has always been more accepted.
The hymn?
Yes.
Oh, because they're not threatening to the power structure. I mean, we got to remember, we were encouraged. No one who was in the slave economy wanted Africans to be Christians until really the end of the 18th century. There was no real drive, and when there was, a lot of us signed up for the program because that was a way to get a little bit higher if you were seen as being a Christian. And also, Christian was code word for white male. You know, when they talk about the times during the Constitution and all those early times, there's only white Christian landowning males who were given any sort of who had the power, let's say.
Right.
And so when they opened up Christianity to us, just cracked the door a little bit, it was only because they realized that it was an effective way to get rid of all these Africanisms, because all those Africanisms were a problem.
Which was work songs, prison songs. Well,
Even before that, I mean, we had I mean, prior to 1830, there was a sizable majority of black people who were born in Africa walking around in
Right.
North America. And they knew all their African music, and sometimes they would link up and recognize each other's culture and realize it's the same, you know. So Christianity was a great way to divide and conquer and just throw some water on all that.
Which still ended
You
up
know?
being the the voice of black enslavement.
Yes.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
So there was, and I got my ideas from reading some books and just thinking about it over the years. But yeah, they weren't. They would have been just fine had we not been Christian. You know, they weren't interested in that, and still they just gave us the bare bones of it because it was forbidden to read for most of us anyway. So what are we even praising?
Right. Okay.
You know, and then the white overseer, the slave master, is in the church, as you know, every Sunday to oversee what's being said. So it's a slave message, and we have swallowed this slave message and hook, line, and sinker. We've run with it, you know.
Mm.
And some of us are starting to wake up, but even still, a lot of the patterns that we display are reminding us that we have a lot of work to do. We haven't even been so-called physically free, but a little over 150 years now.
If that long, yeah.
You know, and we were in bondage for a lot longer than that. you know, so
and it's actually longer than 400 years. They keep telling us 400 years. It's way longer than that as well.
true. So yeah, we have a lot to do, and we can't do it by denying and saying, "Oh, that was so long ago. Let's just get over it. We all the same." That's lying to yourself.
Well, lying to themselves. We don't say that.
Some of us do. Some of us
Oh.
do, though.
Oh boy.
Some of us do.
So they
You know,
would
and
fall.
I think more of us are starting to, because it's being more fashionable to not want to be black.
Mm. Mm. And it's safe
And
to
it's
say
definitely
that.
encouraged in the media, water
Right.
yourself down, don't talk about, and look at our celebrities, how few of them are even taking a stand about anything.
They don't.
When
Well.
we got so many wealthy celebrities and prominent people.
Mm. So let me ask you this: with in getting the word out, in appreciating, celebrating, and preserving our Africanisms, and we could just keep it with the blues right now. Do you think that it's imperative that black business and black celebrity take part in this?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we are in integration now. Back in the day, black celebrities didn't have a choice, really. You had to live with black people.
Mm. That's right.
And look at the example that was set by, Louis Armstrong spoke out about civil rights.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali spoke out. Eartha Kitt, she paid a price, but still, she spoke out.
Her life was a
Black
price.
people in positions of prominence were braver back in the day.
Because there was
than
not a choice.
This set we have now, this set we've got now. I'm not saying everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but by and large, many of them are scared to death.
Mm.
And I really applaud Beyonce. I don't think she's revolutionary or anything like that, but she made a contribution.
And she made a statement. She did. For whatever the reason was,
she
she
made a
did.
statement, and obviously it was rehearsed and it was signed off by the powers that be, none of whom are black, ahead of time. We know this, so it wasn't like she staged the coup, but she made a statement, and I respect that. I can't knock it. And then also she does other things. She and her man,
Right.
That's great. But, we need a lot more than just them, and it seems to me that there's more than, when I consider the situation that we're in, there more could be done. But I think there's a big disconnect between the prominent money-making celebrities and whatnot and the normal people, because it's still viewed as a normal mindset to get your money and get up away from the other black people and live somewhere else.
Right.
And start eating other foods and, just change up your whole program.
Right, right. Detached. Let me ask. I want to talk about your tour, because not the musical tour actually, but don't you take a group of people on a pilgrimage through the motherland?
Well, I'm doing a Black Heritage, African Heritage tour of Mali, September 10th through the 20th, not September, pardon me, January. I'm tired, been a long day. January 10th through the 21st,
Okay.
2017. And we'll be going to Bamako, Mali, also to Ségou, to Djenné, to Mopti, and it's an African Heritage tour, so it will include not only the culture, the music, the crafts, the textiles, the food, all that, the mythology of the people, the history. So it's through a travel agent called Access Africa, and they were referred to me by Runoko Rashidi, a historian, a great historian that also for many years has been doing tours not only in Africa but all around the world. So this will be one of many trips to Mali that I've made, and also to Africa. But I'll be leading a tour for the first time next January, the 10th to the 21st, 2017. So
that's groovy.
Really looking for black people to sign up, because I think it's very important that we demystify Africa and realize that West Africa is quite close, and it's something that we can relate to still, and that we can go and be welcome in. So I'm hoping to really give people a good experience going home to Africa and really making a connection, so that they'll want to go again for themselves, and they'll realize, okay, this is a place where I belong.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I dig it. And where can people find the information on this tour, this pilgrimage?
You can go to accessafrica.com and search Mali Mystic, as in mystical, Mali Mystic. Otherwise, there's the African Heritage Tour Facebook page. You can just search Mali African Heritage Tour. The hashtag is Mali Tour 2017. But it's Access Africa who is doing all the payment processing. Basically, ones have to pay $200 deposit to register to save your place by the 31st of March. And then it's monthly payments thereafter. It varies depending on the package you get, but it's anywhere between about $350 to $400 per month through November, and that will, pay off the balance. So, looking forward to this, and I'm hoping that it'll be a good turnout.
I believe it will. We want to get that out, and any promotional information that you may have that you want us to help you get the word out, please feel free, and we'll to share it, and we'll make sure we share it as well.
Truly, good thing.
Yes. Well, look, we've been on here a half hour longer than I meant to keep you, but it's great talking to you and getting this information.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for giving me the chance. I did also want to say I have a book out called Jatigi, The Life and Music of Ali Farka Touré. It's the first autobiography of Ali Farka Touré. I wrote it about 2 years ago from my experiences with Ali when he was still alive, and also from trips I had to Mali where I interviewed friends and family. So that's called Jahtigi, Jahtigui, The Life and Music of Ali Farka Touré, and that's available on Amazon.com or Create Space.
That's now during that time. Let me just quickly ask you: during that time, did that help inspire you to move towards where you've been moving and the articles that we've been seeing as of late?
The book, you mean?
Yes, and the experience.
Well, yeah. I mean, from when I met Ali, I realized that I'd been living in a box. Because when he came to pick me up at the airport, both times when he came to pick me up, in his car, he had all these tapes of Johnny Taylor and Ray Charles and Bobby Blue Bland and Otis Redding, and he didn't even have any Malian music. It was all blues and R&B and soul, and wow. I realized that we can go home and they recognize us. But it's us who don't even know ourselves a lot of times.
Wow.
And we definitely, if we don't know ourselves, then we don't really know Africa, And so we have to realize that other people are really glorifying in our music and the music that black people made from our experience, and they see it as coming from the same tree. And so, that let me know that, yeah, this is a black diaspora thing. This is not just me living over here in America with my American passport,
Wow.
This is a global thing, and so that really opened my mind, meeting the man, spending time with him, and someone who's never really read like history books like much, but had such a profound, deep grasp of history through the millennia, and especially the history of our captivity and enslavement in America as well.
Do you have anything else that you any new albums, any new performances you want to let us know about real quick?
Well, I have a live CD that's out on the Blues Boulevard label called Live from Turtle Island, which is with my band, the Corey Harris Band. And before that, in 2013, I put out a record called Fulton Blues, which I was very happy with. Very much a straight-ahead blues record, some solo cuts and also some band cuts. And I'm finishing up a record now. I'm not sure what the title is, but I have most of it recorded, and it's really like an African blues record. It's got some traditional type sound and stuff, but most of it's original. And we have guitar, some keyboard, drums, bass, sax. We also have some ngoni. I play banjo on there as well.
Another
Ngoni
African
being
instrument.
A four-string ancestor to the banjo from Mali. That's played by Sheikh Kamala Diabate, my brethren from Mali. So I'm really happy with the progression, just keeping it the same Corey Harris vibe and, staying true to the root as best I can.
Groovy. Again, it was an honor. It was such an honor chopping it up with you, and we have to do it again.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Okay, guys, you know what it is. You've been bluesing. We're talking about the blues, and I hope you had your notepads out because we're getting history over here, and that's what this is about. So if nothing else, you do two things: you keep God first, and you keep on bluesing.
Yes, I.